Welcome to Agile Clips, where we break down Agile into manageable pieces. In this episode, we discuss Agile First Responders. How do you know when you need help with your Agile transformation? And what do first responders do to identify and fix the root causes of problems and to then stabilize the situation? Hi, Santosh.
Hi, Steve.
I know that recently you presented at Agile Camp, very interesting presentation, and I heard it went really well. So I thought today we could just go over some of that material.
Yeah, sure. No, the Agile Camp was exciting. That was a lot of fun. Learned a lot. Had a good interaction with a lot of people. My topic was the Agile First Responders. So, anytime there is any crisis as to who are the first responders and what kind of things they have to do to get the things back on track, or at least salvage any of the situations. So that was the thing, and we had a good attendance. People liked it, so I'm quite happy that I thought that was something that people always looked for. They said, some of them they said, yeah, these are so tangible things that happen in our company. So that was fun.
Great. I understand that you had a very interactive session and you had a few questions that you focused on, such as when are Agile First Responders needed and what do they do and what happens when they leave. Is that correct?
Yeah. If you look at the responders role, they come in, they fix the things, they get the things stabilized, and then team members to take over, and then whether the change or the things that they have done sticks makes a difference. So that's like a typical first responder.
Right.
Stabilizing the situation and keeping it stable going forward. So I think that's the approach that we took, and people said, "Yeah, we'd like to listen to that." And I was just throwing ideas out to them, and some of the things that did come up is that, for example, people are saying, "Oh, we need somebody to help because leadership has mandated that we have to go agile," and people have no idea what they have to do now. Or a lot of companies now have been going through this, and they think they are agile and they are not because they are not seeing any significant impact on some of the success factors that they were looking for. Or sometimes even because of that, the business team is their confidence is eroding because they think, hey, the old process, at least we knew what we were doing. Now you guys are not even delivering anything and we have no control over things. So there were a few of those, I guess, the factors that they said, yeah, this is what is happening in our companies too. So
yeah, I think that's very common to see that people get so focused on Agile, whether they think they're doing it because they think it's hip or they really believe that there's going to be a benefit, but people just don't focus on the outcome. And sometimes you only need to go so far in terms of transforming the company. Maybe just introducing some technical practices is the best that you can hope for, and it will speed up development and improve quality, but maybe it's not appropriate for the whole organization.
Yeah, and sometimes, sometimes people think that, oh, I'm changing it to the daily stand-ups, sprints and this, and now it'll change. Well, underlying thing, if it is not really an agile mindset to get there, you're doing mini waterfalls or something like that. And of course, you're not going to see the benefits of what that is. And those are the things kind of manifest itself. Oh, the agile doesn't work, or our agile is not working. Those kind of. So that's the one thing that I said to them was that we need to start looking at certain areas where to focus as soon as somebody is called in. Is there any things at the leadership level, at the teams level, or the delivery team level, or the cross-functional setup for the delivery? And that will tell us either the root cause or maybe the low-hanging fruits where we can start making a difference. So, for example, in leadership side of things, if the intake funnel is so crowded and so many things are being pushed down that nothing is coming at the other end because all the teams are overwhelmed. If the organization is not even reorged or structured to be able to agile, then to be able to handle the agile process, then you can see that too. What we also looked at was sometimes the backlogs. They are like either the huge backlog, nobody knows exactly where things are going, or sometimes we have seen very little of backlog is there, and everything is from the seat of their pants. So one of the things that always they ask, but we are not supposed to do the planning. I said, that may be the misconcept that you are looking at. We have to have a plan, just that we don't have to stick to the changes are okay to the plan, and the frequency of changes are okay. Oh, that so those were like the low-hanging fruits that we had seen in the team level. And the other, yeah, sorry, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention the intake is so important. There was one company where I was working, and the company was producing software as a service, which these days you would probably expect to have multiple deployments per day.
Right.
But in that company, and it was a few years ago, the planning was done to have 2 releases per year.
Wow.
And the amount of work was just so overwhelming that every time it was fed to the engineering organization, it resulted in 2 to 3 months of delays. So
right.
not only was it bad to be thinking about a release every 6 months, but in practice it was every 9 months.
Yeah, and those kind of things happen at the enterprise level also. Is that, oh, our customers are not ready for every 3 month type of releases. Like, okay, there is a conceptual difference here. What do you mean by releasing? It could be pre-production or ready for production, but not in production. Those are the conceptual changes that they need to look at. And also the other thing that I think we were talking earlier is that how do you prioritize stuff? If the leadership intake process is all top heavy, then if you have only limited number of teams or delivery teams, you're going to run into trouble of how you handle the prioritization. And otherwise,
Definitely.
that are I think we had talked about this. The hippo, highest paid person's opinion makes the priority. That creates another challenges. People in the audience, they were like, "We have a lot of hippos," because I think there needs to be an objective way of prioritization so that we have all the subjective and the emotional side slowly has to go away and make it more delivery focus and the value focus than just the emotional focus. So those are the kind of things we see in the intake side of things.
But just going back to the story I was telling, what happened in this company is we continued to plan in a way for a release every 6 months. At least there was a theme to what we wanted to release in 6 months. But in practical terms, we were actually deploying every month and doing it on time and with high quality because the teams were not overwhelmed by trying to figure out how to deal with so many things. They were just taking one chunk, deploying, and then the press releases were still coming out once every 6 months. But we had actually already deployed the software, up to 5 months earlier and validated that it was working. We're getting good feedback from customers who'd started to use parts of these features. And we could even ask them to be in the press releases as early adopters of those new capabilities. So it really
Yeah.
made everything so much more predictable and working really smoothly just because we broke down the intake into really manageable pieces.
One thing that you mentioned is very important that we are always seeing is uh, where is the feedback loop? If you whenever been to the any of the agile adoption or the transformation, we always ask which stage is the feedback loop starting, and then when they start looking at us the puzzled look, that tells you, oh, you know what the where the trouble is, because if you don't have feedback as frequent as possible, you will not get what you're looking for, or even you won't even know whether it's time to pivot, because what the end user or end consumer is trying to look for, the sooner you get engaged with them. Like you just say, we might have some early adopters or focus group who can give you feedback very quickly, so that when the general availability, the GA gets out, it's already been tested. It's not the first time people are seeing it. So the feedback loops is huge. I think that
Right, right.
people do, I guess, overlook that.
So let me ask you, if I think of first responders in a different context, someone has a problem, the police arrives, the fire brigade, an ambulance, people have their specializations. So when you're working with a client, you can be advising people at the CEO level one day and potentially working with the DevOps team on improving their deployment pipeline. So do you find that it's reasonable for one first responder to be able to cover that wider spectrum, or do different people usually have to come in and deal with each aspect?
Well, I think depend on the scale of the problem. So if it is confined to, say, smaller organization, then one person can look at all different. But yeah, if the enterprise type of thing is there, then you really need specialized, like for example, a DevOps coach or a leadership coach. Something of that level has to come in to look at, because the time is of the essence. You need to get to the corrective action and stabilization as soon as possible. So you have to look at it from all different levels. So it depends on how big is the organization trying to get this done. And I've been in the situations where we had to go in as three coaches to help them, because at the different levels or different skill sets,
Right.
to look at
Yep.
those things. The reason being, you have to have a dialogue with those level teams like DevOps and CI, or setting up the CI/CD or those kind of things. There is certain different understanding required behind this. When you are talking to the leadership, your mindset is a little different. Your skill set is also different as to how you approach them into
Exactly.
thinking into those. So yeah, but if it is a smaller organization, they are all closely knit together. You can talk to all of them at the same time and identify where things are. And we did that too at certain startups. We actually had the whole 30 people team sitting there, including the leadership and the delivery team leads, to look at and where things are. And actually that did make a difference, because in those cases where what we term is as a vertically stacked team, so or a no handoff teams, it was a lot more easier to construct that and say, hey, let's get this done first. With I need somebody from here, from here, from here, and they were all there. So that got done. But at the enterprise level, you need to have local, I guess, champions to work with you.
Right.
So it's a depending on the size of the problem,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
might have to pull in the right resources.
Yeah.
What was
So,
yeah.
so when you first go into the organization, how do you evaluate what's going on?
Well, I think the thing that I always talk to them is two approaches. One is like what we have, the typical Kanban approach. So start with what they have instead of trying to say, "Oh, this is all wrong. Scrap this and start again." Instead of that, look at their workflow as to how is this, anything that starts coming in, the requirements come in, how they get done to the other end. And then you start looking at things as to, are they agile or are they following the agile principles? And if they are not, then maybe first start looking at those. For example, we'll look at how many stories do you complete in a this one, or what is your say-do ratio? So do you even know what your definition of done, and what is your capacity is to get these things done? So that's like the low hanging fruit, to take a look at the symptoms. And that can build into, oh, there is so much coming in, that's why they cannot handle it. Or they don't have the automation, that's why testing is lacking behind. Those are the symptoms, but then you can come up with how to start fixing each one of that level, going through that. The other approach that we take is start like a peeling the onion. Start with the leadership and management first, and see what their perceived issue is, and then we can start drilling down as to, okay, let's visualize where the gaps are, where the anti-patterns are. Is there any communication breakdown that is happening? And then go to the leads at each layer, like we were just talking earlier, the team layer or the DevOps layer or tech leads, and start coaching at that level, saying, hey, can we get this done? Because they are the experts and you are asking them to change something. So they may be the right people to start looking at and come up with the better ideas as to, because they know the pain points that they are seeing, and then come up with a better approach. The bottom line there is that at least we have to be able to show them one success story through this at the earliest. So once they visualize or see that, oh, this is how it's supposed to work, now the traction starts. So you need to be able to get a successful implementation of a smallest size of feature or story or epic or whatever that is, and get that going. And that makes everyone take notice and then say, okay, if that works, that means they can start internally evaluating what we did not do or what were we doing incorrectly. And then it becomes a self educational, so we don't have to handhold that much.
So in that case, is it better to keep a successful team together once it's established, or do you think it makes sense to take those people and distribute them so they can go and teach other people, other groups to improve?
Well, I actually am a firm believer is that if the team is working together, breaking them up may not, because for two reasons. One, if they break them up, then the other teams may or may not be as easily adaptable or to their style of doing things, because it's all, anything that we are delivering, it's it's a team ownership that they are delivering. So the whole team can become an evangelist, or when you go to the other team saying that, hey, if you have questions, go to this team, and they can give you how they did it, instead of breaking those things away from each other. And what we have seen in multiple instances, that once you have this showcase team, that really creates a pull, because everyone then wants to start asking them questions as to, we had this type of things, what did you do? Or how did you, overcome this type of problem that we always see in our business? So it becomes a lot more easier to relate, instead of somebody from the other teams just saying, now we are not going to do that what we were doing it. This is how we will do it. So I mean, in some cases it might work, but usually it doesn't.
I agree with you totally.
So yeah, creating a pull is a big thing, and I think one of the things that basically having that visibility to everyone, saying, "Look, this is how it actually should work, and this is how it works, and it delivers." That creates awareness. I think that's what the big difference is as to how first responders can make things stick going forward. Um, it's what we call as making it real for the entire organization, so that they should have an aha moment, saying that, oh, that's what would make this is how we can do it in our case. And then once they own it, that, oh, I will make that change, then you don't have to handhold or anything. No, it will stick. So
Yes.
that's the main thing behind it. And also, I think measuring, right from the get-go, if we start measuring the real tangible stuff as to did we deliver the value, how often did we deliver, uh, what was our say-do ratios, or what we said we will do and what we'll do. It doesn't matter that it needs to be a technical as far as that is concerned, but it's more of the whole organization needs to look at, okay, we will promise this and we will deliver this, that or better. If that culture starts as to don't over promise and under deliver, keep on doing it as the right way, then it'll come a lot more
Yes.
faster. So it's just because we can measure it, we should not go ahead and measure that, because if that can be weaponized. So, so the other thing that we always say, like, okay, let's look at the value-based measures. Look at what your OKRs are and are your KPIs and where the value is generated in that KPI. Otherwise, don't measure it. And that also keeps, I guess, nervousness to a very minimum in every team, saying, oh, okay, so we are just going to be measured by that, because they say, oh, what is your velocity? We always say, oh, how many points do you want? You can always inflate the story points and get a better velocity measurement. That doesn't make any sense. It's more of a what is your value that you're
Yeah,
delivering.
it's about the business outcome, not just
Exactly.
measuring how you're behaving from an agile perspective,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the
So
objective is the outcome, not the
correct. Correct.
fact that you adopted agile.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody cares whether there was a gerbils running behind the scene and getting it done. Once we're done with the first responders leave, go back to them maybe once a quarter, once saying that, hey, how are things going? What are you still using? And that makes the difference to us as to, uh, okay, we made these changes and they actually took that and ran with it. And that is sustainable. Then it makes sense that, oh, did we make the real change or not? You and I talked about the leading from behind kind of thing, is to first maybe cycle you lead, then ask them to lead, and you just take back seat and make sure that they are not deviating, and then they take over from there. So getting out of that support business is a good thing. Not to they should not be constantly coming to you, what do I do next? They should be able to figure out what
Yeah,
what to do.
you're reminding me of the podcast we recorded with Llewellyn Falco,
Yeah,
where he was
exactly.
saying about how he leaves the room, and even whilst he's drawing the engagement, he just leaves the room and leaves people for longer and longer periods to see if even within the space of minutes and hours they are going backwards or keeping up the new practices they've learned.
Correct, correct. And then I think that is where you really know whether we are getting the traction, and they really get the mindset is changing or not.
Yes.
So I think that's the key. I think the other thing that really helped was that I showed them one of the feedback that the company that I had worked earlier in 2019 for 6 months, where they had asked me to come in and help. And at the end of the year, they showed us, send me the graph of how they have made the progress. And that was like touchdown. The coaching, that's a coach's dream, that they are actually not only working with, they were measuring the typical say do ratio. And they said, just by looking at that, they had integrated 4 companies into one. They had automatic regression started, production deployment, each sprint that was going on.
Wow.
Defect SLAs from 90 days to 30 days had come down. It's just looking at where they focus and how to measure it. That whole culture change. So, yeah, you never know what small change at the lowest level you could make will have a huge impact for the overall organization side of things. So, yeah, it's when you said, how do you how many people do you need? Well, it depends upon how severe the problem is and how big is the
Yes.
problem. But as
Yes.
long as it sticks, then it makes a difference. But one thing that I would say, there is one really good, I guess, literature or a white paper by Mike Cottermeyer. He's really great guy,
From
and
Leading Agile.
yeah, from Leading Agile, and he has looked at how the short-term things can be done, mid-term things can be done, long-term. It really, with the complex organizations to mid-size to a small size. I still refer some of the techniques from him as to how do you uh, see whether the agile transformation is going in the right direction or not. So I would highly recommend to have that. People should take a look at that.
Yeah, we can put a link in the podcast notes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great.
Cool.
It's a very interesting topic. And I think we've all faced situations, whether we think of ourselves as agile coaches, or in my case, when I was just kind of starting down this path, I pretty quickly was being called in to help other teams that were having problems. And I was truly a first responder at the time.
Yeah.
So I
No,
think a lot of people go through this as
correct.
their
Correct.
careers develop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
it's
the other
interesting.
thing is, sometimes you need to realize, we need a first responder for us. I think that realization is also huge. Just to say that, okay, we are not doing what we are supposed to,
Right.
so let's go. So I think that's where it really makes a difference to have somebody come in. And I mean, it could be within your own organization, doesn't matter, but at least have somebody to help you guys, realize how to get to the right place that you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. I've been on that side of the equation as well, because when I got started in the agile space, I just read a lot and tried to implement techniques, and there was already an improvement on what we had been doing in the organization previously. Then I went through some formal 2-day training, and yes, now I really understand it. And then we were kind of not really progressing, and I brought in an agile coach, and oh wow, that was like
Huge.
literally transformational. That's when I really got to understand the meat of it, and sort of
Yeah.
get to the next level.
Yeah, made it real.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Awesome.
thank
This
you.
is great.
Thank you,
Of course,
Santosh.
yeah. This is fun. This brings out some good memories.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Take
Okay.
care, everyone.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.